United States Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, joins me. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Greta. Thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you for joining me. Okay, I want to ask you about the talks. You met with the Iranians or had talks before the bombing campaign, and now, of course, there's the expectation there'll be some more talks. Did you get the sense when you met with the Iranians before the bombing that they wanted a deal?
You know, it was unclear because after each negotiation, I think they needed to go back, and there were people back home in Tehran who had to approve things and rubber stamp things, and so it was sort of it was obfuscated a little bit. But I think that today there really is an opportunity, after what we've done, after the leadership of President Trump in doing what was really necessary. I think there's an opportunity for us to get to a comprehensive peace agreement that includes most of the things we talked about before, as the president just identified.
Well, you know, it's interesting is that the president's been very transparent of where he showed his cards from the very beginning. He says no nuclear enrichment program, period. That's what he said before the bombing. He's saying that right now. In terms of the talks beforehand, were the Iranians saying, okay, we want a little enrichment, or we're going to go, up to a certain percentage, or were they even saying, okay, in exchange for no enrichment, we want such and such sanctions lifted? Did they put anything on the table themselves?
Well, Greta, first of all, you don't need enrichment if you're running a civil nuclear program. The Iranians, from the very beginning in the negotiations, attested to the fact that that's all that they wanted to do, to run a civil nuclear program for the betterment of their society. They wanted to bring power and electricity to their nation, and they wanted to do medical and agricultural research through radioisotopes. You do not need to enrich to have those uses in your country. You can do what Abu Dhabi does. You can have a civil nuclear non-enrichment program where you're buying the fuel on the outside. It comes in already enriched to the level that it needs to be to burn it. And so we never really understood the motivation other than wanting to get to a bomb. And that's our red line along with enrichment. Our red line, first and foremost, is they can't weaponize, they can't have a bomb. That's a very unhealthy thing for the region. And secondly, they can't have enrichment or that conversion facility that you heard about, because those are the two ways to get to weaponization.
Did they say anything they wanted? I mean, because it was so apparent what the United States position was, and also Israel, though they're not party in the talks. Did they say anything they wanted, or would they just sort of sit there and look at you?
No. There was good discussion, and I think what they wanted was they didn't want to give up enrichment. I think they viewed it as a symbol of national pride, but we saw it very differently. And I tried to convince them that our way was the better way, and ultimately we just took it to a different level. And sometimes I'm surprised that they were caught by surprise, because that was always the alternative. The alternative to a peaceful resolution, a diplomatic resolution, was always going to be some sort of military action if, in fact, we couldn't get to the right result. And the president took that opportunity. And candidly, I'm not sure. I don't think that there was any other choice. What he did was needed. But what's needed now is, as the sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, is there any point to the talks now? I mean, of course, we don't have a full damage assessment, and I hear everyone sort of fuss around on all the words and everything, but making the assumption that their program has been devastated or certainly damaged, is there any purpose for the talks? Because, the United States is, I believe, has achieved what it's wanted, that they don't have the capability. It's now just whether if Iran sort of wants to join the rest of the world and have sanctions lifted and be basically more engaged.
Well, that's the point. Look, we achieved our objectives, so did the Israelis. That's why the president was able to announce a ceasefire deal and get the parties to agree to the ceasefire. And so we were never going to have a forever war here. It was always going to be an incisive strike and and once we achieved our objectives, it was going to be over, and sure enough, it is. And not many people have the capability to do that. President Trump does. With regard to the agreement that you're talking about, I think there are plenty of reasons to have it. First of all, we want to invite Iran to be a prosperous nation, to be a part of the League of Nations, to do business with us, to grow their economy. We want the region to be a bellwether for economic progress for the rest of the world. All of those different things. And I think a peace treaty codifies that and rubber stamps that motivation. And that's what we hope to see.
Would that also perhaps, I read there's a lot of things being talked about today and in the Israeli press as well, that there's been a little bit of a tease from you out there that the Abraham Accords, that there may be some, announcement soon. I don't know, what that means. I assume it means an expansion of the Abraham Accords. But if there is some sort of agreement or deal or something with Iran, sort of bringing them into the fold, so to speak, would that give more cover for other countries to come into the Abraham Accords? Would that have an impact on it?
Well, we've been in discussions with multiple countries to come into the Abraham Accords, irrespective of what's happening in Iran. And those are successful conversations. We expect to have a bunch of announcements in the coming weeks, maybe a month. So, and that was always high on our agenda because it's a very, very important achievement that President Trump had in his first administration, and he wants to build on that. And all of that, those are really, really, that's like the bedrock of all kinds of good things happening in the Middle East. So we really want to see that. But I think the Iranian ceasefire here is a really big deal. Some countries, as you've hinted at, were sitting on the sidelines. And I don't think they're going to be on the sidelines now. I think they'll be coming in, and there'll be normalization with the state of Israel. And that's a really good thing for prosperity possibilities for the entire region.
All right, Iran they've been a rogue nation, and certainly in building these nuclear facilities. Natanz was first discovered in the Western world. We learned about it about the year 2002 or so, but it had been in construction or building since 1991, which means that for 10 years that we didn't know anything about it. The world didn't know anything about it. So, and as sophisticated as Mossad is and all the intelligence gathering by the United States, can you say with certainty that while all our attention is on these 3 places that we just bombed last weekend, can you say with certainty that Iran doesn't have some other secret nuclear enrichment facility that we don't even know about?
Well, look, our intelligence eye is really good, and so is Israel's. And we believe that we have obliterated their enrichment capability. Natanz, Fordo were active enrichment sites. Natanz had 2 nuclear reactors, one above ground, one below ground. Fordo, all below ground. The Esfahan facility, the Iranians actually had announced about a week and a half ago that they intended to put a enrichment reactor down there. Esfahan's been destroyed pretty good, so is Natanz, and so is Fordo. But most importantly, or just as importantly, Greta, we took out their conversion facility. And you cannot enrich or begin the enrichment process without the conversion facility being a part of the program. That's in the beginning of the enrichment cycle. And at the end of the enrichment cycle, when the fuel is brought up to 90% weapons grade, you need the conversion process to metallicize the fuel, create the round ball that goes into the bomb. That conversion facility was taken out. We know that they have no other conversion facility. It's not to say they couldn't build another one, but that's also. But I don't think that would be a smart thing on their part. So I would say, all in all, we have pushed their enrichment and weaponization capability off by years, not weeks or months, as some people have suggested.
Well, you have a very important job, and I know people appreciate what you're doing because this is such an important topic for so many reasons. Steve Witkoff, thank you, sir, for joining me. People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for the record on Newsmax.